This is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes.
Let's just be real for a second. Rachel Zegler didn't just star in Disney's live-action Snow White, she made herself the main character of a PR nightmare.
Let's say that you were in a Hollywood movie, and the trailer for that movie dropped on YouTube, and it instantly became the #1 most downvoted trailer in the history of the platform.
She went from rising starlet to walking Twitter controversy in record time, and now the movie is a certified box office flop. Critics are dragging it like a clearance bin gown, and Rachel is allegedly having a full-on mental spiral behind the scenes. But hold up.
How it was so outdated and how Rachel Zegler disrespected the original and a classic from Walt Disney, something that completely saved Disney and changed the company and changed animation in general.
This isn't just about bad numbers. It's not even just about what she said in those now infamous interviews. This is about a young actress who got handed the keys to one of the most iconic roles in cinematic history and thought she could drag the legacy and still walk away the hero. Spoiler alert, she didn't. And now, the fallout is explosive, with fans, insiders, even other celebs allegedly throwing shade.
And now as Disney desperately tried to do a PR spin job in the final months to make it look like Rachel Zegler is actually likable, it ultimately was a complete failure.
Let's not forget, Rachel was supposed to be Disney's next Golden Girl. She was handpicked by Steven Spielberg. She was poised to be Gen Z's Cinderella moment. But when she got the Snow White role, something flipped. Suddenly, the interviews weren't about excitement or gratitude. They were about how weird the original was, how the prince was a stalker, how this version of Snow White would be a leader, not waiting for true love. Girl, we get it. You wanted to modernize it. But why trash the very fairy tale that made it all possible? It came off less like empowerment and more like disdain. Like she couldn't stand the fact that she had to play a silly little princess in the first place. And fans? Oh, they clocked it immediately. Memes, reaction videos, comment sections. The internet started turning before the movie even premiered. And when the film finally dropped, it tanked. Hard. Theater photos started going viral. Empty seats everywhere. Disney expected $1 billion nostalgia bomb. What they got was a financial faceplant, and Rachel is reportedly taking it harder than anyone expected.
She continued celebrating herself by posting that she's in the #1 movie in the world, which is a remarkable thing to post when you are the laughingstock of an entire industry. This is what narcissism looks like. Narcissism for 200.
Let's add a little spice because, girl, this wasn't just a PR disaster. Whispers from the set are starting to leak too. Word is, Rachel was not the easiest person to work with. According to an anonymous crew member who allegedly spilled to a blind item site, she treated the project like it was beneath her and spoke to people like she was above them. And let's just say, if that's true, the diva label is already halfway glued on. Even Gal Gadot, yes, our Wonder Woman queen, has stayed very quiet since the backlash started. No public defense, no "my co-star is so misunderstood" posts. Just silence. And in Hollywood, silence is shady, especially when it's coming from someone who shared the screen and probably shared the side eyes when the interview started blowing up.
Theaters are, of course, entirely empty. Do you understand that having people buy tickets is an important part of success in your industry?
Here's where it gets interesting. Yes, Rachel said the things she said. But let's talk about Disney's role in all this. Because what kind of studio hands a multi-million-dollar reboot to a 20-something actress and doesn't coach her on how to talk to the press? Like, where was the media training? The prep? The messaging? Some insiders are saying Disney's top brass let her go off script thinking the feminist spin would help sell the movie. They let her become the face of this new, rebranded girl boss Snow White, without giving her the tools to handle the pressure that came with it. So yes, Rachel fumbled, but maybe she was also set up, cast not just in a movie, but in a war between nostalgia and modern politics. A war that Disney wanted to win, but didn't know how to fight. And who took the hit? Rachel. Because when the box office bombs, the internet doesn't blame executives, it blames faces.
And it is actually so bad that Rachel Zegler decided to post a video of herself in a theater. Maybe I think she bought that ticket right there.
Okay, so picture this. You're fresh off a Spielberg movie. Disney just made you the face of their most iconic fairy tale. Your name is everywhere. The runway invites, the press junkets, the movie deals, it's all happening, and then it isn't, because now Rachel Zegler's career momentum is stalling, and it's not subtle. It's not just the flop of Snow White, it's what the flop represents, a hard, undeniable shift in how she's perceived by the very industry that once treated her like a Gen Z goddess. And the worst part? She hasn't even been in the game long enough to recover like a seasoned star. This isn't her 5th strike. This is her first real moment, and she's already carrying the weight of a public and professional embarrassment.
Decided to film herself in a theater totally empty, giggling, tee-hee-heeing with total glee.
Rachel was supposed to be that girl. Fresh face, ethnic representation, musical theater roots, a Gen Z star who could sing, act, and speak up on the right issues. But here's the thing. The it girl throne in Hollywood is never empty. If you fumble the bag, someone else is already waiting in the wings with better press training and fewer Twitter clips. And right now, all eyes are shifting. Studios are allegedly turning to names like Jenna Ortega, Ayo Edebiri, even Halle Bailey, stars who bring the youth appeal without the attitude. Stars who understand that reinvention is great, but respecting your audience is greater. Insiders say casting directors are taking a pause on Rachel. That roles she was loosely attached to are now reevaluating their options. One film studio, unnamed of course, reportedly cut talks with her altogether after early screening reactions for Snow White were underwhelming. That's not just a bad week, that's career freeze mode. And the scariest part? It's quiet. Nobody announces it. You just stop getting calls. You just stop being the one they want. And she's feeling it.
Look at this. Look at this face. What can be said about this level of narcissism here?
You'd think after all this backlash, someone would speak up for her. A co-star, a director, a former mentor, a producer from West Side Story? Crickets. Even people who once hyped her up? Silent. And you already know how this works. In Hollywood, silence is never just silence. It's calculated. It means one of two things. They're afraid defending her will drag them into the mess. They agree with the backlash, and they just don't want to say it out loud. Either way, it's giving, "You're on your own, sweetie." Gal Gadot hasn't said a word. Spielberg hasn't released any kind of leave her alone statement. And Disney? Girl, Disney is acting like they've never heard of her. They're already moving on to the next live-action reboot like this never happened, and when a machine as big as Disney goes radio silent on your name, you don't need a press release to know you've been cut off.
It's Snow White. Let's go through this, right? Oh, there's no prince. Woman doesn't need a prince.
Oh, Lord.
Really? Okay, good luck back then. It's just so stupid. Like, of course you do.
Now, let's talk spin. Sources say Rachel's team is working overtime behind the scenes. They're trying to scrub old interviews, control search engine results, and even slow down her public appearances to minimize future drama. And allegedly, there's a plan to stage a comeback moment, maybe a charity campaign, a heartfelt magazine cover. A young star learns from backlash angle, but the internet's not buying it. Not anymore, because the public's issue with Rachel isn't just about a bad movie. It's about attitude, about ego, about the way she carried herself as if she was above the story, above the audience, above the entire legacy she was paid to protect. That doesn't just vanish with a glossy Vogue interview. People remember how you made them feel. And Rachel made them feel like they weren't welcome in a story they loved their entire lives. No amount of rebranding can cover that up, at least not anytime soon.
In the greatest Disney box office bomb in the history of Disney live-action remakes, but certainly also the end of her career.
Let's not sugarcoat it. Rachel Zegler is no longer the future of Hollywood. She's the lesson everyone's whispering about behind closed doors. And while there's no headline that says Hollywood has officially cut Rachel off, babe, it's happening. The signs are there. The same studio execs who once introduced her as the fresh new face of the next Disney era, they're scrubbing her name off their lips like a wine stain on white carpet. And the worst part, it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not even public. It's quiet. It's chilling, and it's absolutely intentional. Hollywood doesn't announce you've been blacklisted, they just stop returning your team's emails. The projects move in another direction, the phone doesn't ring, the meetings get postponed indefinitely. And for Rachel, the silence is starting to sound a lot like a door closing and locking behind her.
The bliss of total stupidity and narcissism. Look at the bliss. On some level, it's got to be a blessing. to just be so smooth-brained.
You already know Rachel's team is working overtime behind the scenes. There are full strategy decks being made in some Beverly Hills office with phrases like rebrand into indie darling, low-key public re-entry, find emotional, redemption angle. Girl, they're probably planning a whole docuseries called Rewriting the Narrative, the Rachel Zegler story. But here's the thing, the public doesn't care, because this scandal didn't come from nowhere. It wasn't a tweet from 2012. It wasn't an accidental moment taken out of context. This was a months-long display of arrogance, of condescension, of dismissing not just the role, but the fans who made that role iconic. This wasn't oops. This was I know better energy, and people felt it. You can't throw shade at a legacy, mock the character you were hired to represent, roll your eyes through interviews, and then expect the audience to give you a soft place to land when the box office numbers start free-falling. And the worst part? She still hasn't apologized. No accountability, no reflection, no clarity, just silence and some unfollow-worthy brand collabs.
This is what theaters look like across the world, and it just keeps getting worse. The memes.
According to multiple industry insiders, Rachel's name is being excluded from conversations where she used to be a guaranteed pitch. Film festivals, casting calls, Netflix miniseries. Producers are allegedly scrubbing her from the maybe lists out of fear that her name now equals backlash. No one wants the baggage, no one wants the internet drama, no one wants to cast a lead and then spend 6 months doing PR cleanup. And that's the thing. It's not just the audience that's lost trust, it's the industry. Studios saw what happened with Snow White. They saw her lack of media control. They saw how she lit a multi-million-dollar franchise on fire and walked away like she was doing us a favor. And now, her reputation in Hollywood is this: talented, but too much risk. Charismatic, but uncontrollable. Young, but not teachable. That is not a combo this town invests in.
Rachel Zegler watching Snow White in an empty theater. Rachel Zegler is watching her box office flop, Snow White, in an empty theater. The level of delusion should be studied, actually.
Let's talk silence, because that's the real story here. Where are the co-stars? Where's the celebrity solidarity? Where's the bare minimum tweet saying, hey, leave her alone? Nowhere. The people who once hyped her up? Gone. The same Hollywood girlies who'd post selfies and tag her at events? Crickets. The directors who believed in her talent? No statements? No press support? No articles planted in her defense? And when everyone stops talking at once, it means they're protecting themselves. It means the fall is real. And no one wants to get pulled down with her. She's no longer the moment. She's the risk, and no one is risking their brand, their rep, or their projects to save a star who acted like she didn't need saving in the first place.
The look of people, like, does this actually look like a happy person? It's always in the eyes, man. It's always in the eyes. If you cover up the mouth and you look at just the eyes, no, you see evil, in fact.
You know what's happening right now? The narrative is being written without her in the room. Every article, every podcast, every YouTube deep dive, they're all painting a very clear picture. Rachel Zegler rose too fast, got too confident, and tanked her own trajectory by being too arrogant to play the game. The saddest part? This could have been avoided. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be grateful. She didn't need to be a PR puppet. She just needed to respect the story and the fans who made it legendary. She didn't need to love Snow White. She just needed to not mock her. But she chose ego, she chose the spotlight on her terms, and now that same spotlight is melting everything she built.
YouTube unseats Disney. Nielsen's TV distributor ranking. YouTube hit a record of 11% of all TV viewing. Well. Disney is dying.
Rachel Zegler didn't just fumble a role. She didn't just say a few messy things and catch heat. She built her brand on rebellion, and now she's standing in the ruins of what should have been her breakthrough legacy moment. This wasn't just a bad press tour. This was the implosion of a career that hadn't even peaked yet. And now, it's all over but the whispering. Because this industry, it doesn't forget the girl who was handed a crown and shattered it on camera.
And at this point, Americans have rejected it. So not only the critics also didn't really like it all that much. 42% as a critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 1.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Wait, was that a 74% fan
score?
Let's be honest, Rachel Zegler was never supposed to carry this kind of weight. She wasn't a seasoned vet. She didn't have decades of goodwill. She was new, hot, marketable, that's it. And once the marketing failed, so did the safety net. Her name isn't just attached to a flop, it's attached to a culture war. She became the face of modern Disney backlash, and you better believe brands are running for cover. No one wants their campaign trending because they cast that girl from Snow White. No one wants to spend 6 months answering for her attitude instead of promoting the product. She's not a star, she's a PR liability. And that's not just career damage, that's reputation death.
Now, if there's one thing to glean from this, it's actually the sheer quality of the negative reviews. So let me read you some quotes. It says, I paid nothing to watch the trailer, but I want my money.
Oh, that's nice. Nice job.
Let's not act like Hollywood doesn't forgive. It does, but only when you've built enough goodwill to bounce back. And Rachel, she burned the goodwill before she even had it. There's no indie film rebrand happening right now. There's no emotional podcast sit down with Oprah or Viola Davis. There's no learning experience essay in The Cut or Variety because the public doesn't believe it. The fans don't want it. And the industry isn't going to force her back into the spotlight unless she disappears long enough to be missed. And spoiler alert, she won't be. She's not on a hiatus. She's being erased, slowly, quietly, like a story Disney wants you to forget.
And funny, this is a joke I made years ago, but if they streamed it on an airplane, I would still walk out.
Yes, that's
an old joke.
That's that.
Let's be clear, even if Rachel Zegler does make a comeback years from now, she'll never walk into a room as just a talented actress again. She'll be the girl who ruined Snow White. Not in the tabloid way, not in the gossip way, but in the permanent Google results way. The executives bring her up and the room goes quiet way. The remember what happened last time way. She didn't rewrite Snow White, she wrote a new cautionary tale about arrogance, timing, and how not knowing how to play the game can cost you the whole damn kingdom. And when the story's written, she won't be the heroine. She'll be the footnote, a headline, a meme, a lesson. Don't go full Zegler. That's the phrase they're going to start using on new PR interns and rising stars. And baby, that is a legacy you don't wish on anyone. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell so you never miss the next celeb meltdown. Because if this was the fall of a fairy tale princess, you know Hollywood's got more villains in the making.